author extraordinaire. My latest book is Jasmine is Haunted, which is a new spooky comedy about a wonderful girl named Jasmine who has had to move every apartment she's lived in for the last 4 years because a ghost has been following her and it will not leave her alone. Unfortunately, she is slightly resentful because the ghost very much appears not to be the spirit of her recently deceased father. It just seems to be a random person who has just been tagging along for the ride. She starts at a new school and meets these two lovely kids who are illustrated on the cover here, Jorge and Bea, who reveal to her that they are part of a supernatural, the gay supernatural alliance at school, and they are determined to help solve the mystery of why Jasmine is haunted, because she is now the first case they have ever gotten where they have definitive proof that the supernatural is real. So it's very funny, it's very spooky. I'm very, very proud of it. I have been working on this book in particular for a couple years. The idea is much older than that. I've kind of been sitting on it for a while. I also have been writing pretty much since I was a kid, and I'm so glad I get to do this in my home office here in Atlanta because I get to actually show you receipts that I have been doing this since I was a child. Yeah, look at these gigantic laminated books. So I was a big fan of the Goosebumps books, very relevant to what I'm writing now. This is like old school printer paper. I have been writing this. I wrote this when I was, let's see, this was 1994. So I was 10 years old, 10 years old. And then I rebranded, wrote a new series. It's called Terrifying Tales. I wrote like 11 of these things. So I have been writing since I was a kid, been a professional writer since I was in my early 20s. I've done journalism and pop culture writing. So writing is just sort of like in my blood and in my spirit. And I'm just very happy that I still get to do it for a career. The thing I'm actually most interested to hear people discuss is actually the relationship between Jasmine and her mom. I wanted to do something I haven't quite done before, particularly in middle grade. I have really enjoyed writing very supportive, very sort of joyous parents who are attempting to do their best and maybe mess up every once in a while. Whereas Jasmine has a kind of a fraught relationship with her mom because her mom is in deep denial of what is happening around the house. So her constantly moving is always given another reason. She's not ever, her mom is never admitting this is the reason we're moving, is because there's a ghost. And so you have this mom who's in denial, this daughter who is being haunted every single time they move to a different house. And so I'm really interested to see how people interpret and experience this relationship between this mother and daughter, and how things change when there's a plot twist pretty early on. That's very, very exciting. But it is something I've never tried before in a book, this particular dynamic between a parent and their kid. So I'm just really interested to see what readers think of it. So I'll start very specifically. Jasmine is Haunted was inspired by a particular school visit I was doing in New York through the Lambda Literary Writers in School program, where I was meeting with a bunch of kids who had read one of my books. And they essentially asked me, like, can you write more dark books? Like, we want more dark things. We want things that are spooky and creepy. So I had that experience. And then only a few days later, another visit in a different part of New York, where we were talking about my first book, Anger is a Gift, which has a very, very heavy theme of grief, written throughout it. And I had a student ask me why so much of the world seems determined not to talk about grief. Why is it always a big secret? Why can't we openly talk about it? And that was one of the reasons they enjoyed reading the book. And so that sort of, those two things combined together to then latch onto an idea I've been holding on to for like a decade. And I've realized this was the perfect vehicle to tell this story, because Jasmine is Haunted is very much about grief in a very, very different way than Anger is a Gift. And so for me, that's what inspires this particular story. I'm a person who grabs inspiration from my daily life, from my past. I have a note in my notes app that is pinned to the top called Story and Book Ideas. I probably have between 40 and 50 unwritten ideas sitting on my phone. That is sometimes, I'll be in a mid-conversation with my friends sometimes, and I'll be like, stop, don't say anything. I just thought of an idea. And I always write them down with as much detail, sort of context of where I am, when I have the idea, to capture that creative spirit. So I am pulling ideas from pretty much everywhere. So I'm saying hello to you from my sort of new office space in my apartment here in Atlanta, and I'm going to slightly adjust the camera to show you my hobbies hanging out over there. I've been playing music since I was 16 years old. I play guitar and bass. I practice every single day. I just started taking music lessons because I'm self-taught. I never learned music theory. I don't know any of that stuff, and I've wanted to continue this as a hobby and actually learn a lot more. And so music is probably my number one hobby. I would say also I'm a long distance runner. I really love hiking. So I just like being outdoors, being out in the world, doing some physical activity. And I also tell people, especially kids, it's very, very important if you want to be an artist for your career, please have hobbies outside of your art. Have hobbies, things that you can do that have nothing to do with your writing. For me, I find it very fulfilling, and it also gives me a break from writing during the day. I grew up as a kid in the library. Shout out to the La Sierra branch of the Riverside Public Library, where I spent a lot of time as a kid checking out the maximum amount of books that I was allowed to check out when I was a minor. I spent a lot of time, particularly in my junior high and high school libraries, when I was much shyer, when I was not this extroverted self you see before you. So I spent a lot of time in libraries reading as much as I could. I have maintained a very strong relationship with libraries throughout my adult life, especially when I was dealing with things like housing insecurity and not having a place to stay. And often the library was the place that I could go where not only did I feel safe, but I had access to the internet and I had books. I wrote probably between a third and a half of Anger's a Gift in I want to say it was the 14th Street branch of the Oakland Public Library. I used to live around the corner and I wrote so much of that book in that library. I write in libraries here. I couldn't even name. I've written in so many branches of libraries here in Atlanta. Because for me, it's just I love being in that creative space. I love that if I have an idea and I want to go check and do research or maybe pull out a fiction book from a similar genre, I can do that and it's so easy. So I'm still in libraries all of the time. They mean the world to me.